You are listening to Rouge Radio, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
It's time to get the point as Rouge Radio is ready to kick off.
Ready!
The best football talk with the best in the business.
So what is the cost? You have 2 first-round picks this year because the Argos were dumb enough to trade for Drew Willie.
A few rookies.
We go directly to the on-field product. We welcome to the show the 20th overall pick in this past Sunday's CFL draft, DeAndre Wright of the Alouettes. DeAndre, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And the occasional Hall of Famer.
Please welcome Doug Brown, who is one of the members of the current class of 2016 in the CFL Hall of Fame. Doug, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you guys for the kind words and for having me on the program.
Rouge Radio is on the air. Here's your hosts, Robert Dalton and Tony Allen.
We are back for another edition of the Rouge Radio podcast, powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. This is episode 438. And my name is Robert Dalton Live. As you can tell, I got a Bomber banner in the background, live from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And Tony, you are in Medicine Hat now, right?
Yeah.
You're not in Tabor. Okay.
Not
That's
Tabor,
great.
Lethbridge, anywhere else it might pop up. Oyen.
There we go. So we got some nice feedback on our video podcast. Obviously, now that we're both from home, and now we got a proper setup for this, we could actually make the sound a little bit easier, a little bit nicer, as opposed to before where we were just recording it through our phones and iPads. But this is great.
I need to get more improved in my video setup. I need that little light disc. Have you seen those things? Apparently people use them for their TikTok videos. It's like a round light. It's supposed to give you better thing when you're recording. So now I just need to work on that. Now I just got like my kitchen light shining off my glasses and gigantic forehead, and maybe I need a ball cap. That's too much forehead for one broadcast.
My daughter has one, so just wait till your daughter's old enough to want one for Christmas and not use it for the next decade. But slim pickings. Week 1's in the books. Your thoughts? It's good to have football, a regular season football, right? I mean, I know we kind of talked about this on the live broadcast, but man, it's still good to keep on talking about it. It's nice to have meaningful football. Mired in some controversy, and then we'll talk about that with the hot takes.
Well, you know what? I think what I liked is if you look, when I look back at the games here, just the scores, some of them lopsided, but I don't think there was a stinker out of the 4. You could maybe say the BC Edmonton because it was a blowout, but I don't know. I think that was a good story that we'll talk about later, and I don't think you could even call that one a stinker. Probably Elks fans are the only one that will tell you it's a pure stinker. But overall, I thought it was just a fantastic way to kick off the CFL season.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because we're just going to go straight into the 3-down hot takes. And 3-down hot takes sponsored by folks at SeatGiant.ca. Enter the promo code Rouge for a discount on sporting events in your area. And like I keep on joking about, it doesn't have to be sporting events. It could, I don't know, if Michael Bublé is in town, you can go buy a ticket.
Do that banner thing. Do that banner thing for us right there. The banner.
The people on the people who are not watching this or have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, I've been playing around with banners in the live broadcast, so that would have been cool. I will get that on it, but enter the promo code Rouge for discounts on your sporting events or tickets in your area. First one on the docket here, and you mentioned Edmonton because the BC Lions. How great was that atmosphere in BC? And we were talking about where attendance seems to be a hot button issue. But let's focus on the great atmosphere in BC and what a tremendous job that Amar Doman has done in BC. We talk about Victor Cui in Edmonton, and that's a tremendous job. But to see immediate results in BC is just fantastic, right?
Well, and here's what I like about what's happening in BC is attendance in this league. We were talking about before the show started, and why I kind of thought this is important to take this angle is attendance is such a low-lying fruit for CFL detractors. I think that's right. If you have nothing to complain about, they'll default to attendance because it's easy to go after. And I don't know if 30,000 people are going to show up for every BC Lions home game. But the point of this, the point of the new owner was to get people interested in football in Vancouver and try and make the Lions be the first team you think of in sports when you're in Vancouver. And I'm not saying he's done it. I'm not saying it's problem solved, but he's putting his money where his mouth is so far. And he got the result he wanted to. An absolutely amazing atmosphere, a great football game. And whether it's smoke and mirrors, but almost a product on the field to match it. Obviously, we have to take into consideration who the opponent was. But let's be honest, that's a Chris Jones football team. Mm-hmm. And what BC did to them is still, because this is one of the best defensive minds this game is seen in decades. And BC just destroyed it. So, I mean, hats off to BC Lions and that game. A great start. If you're trying to wipe the slate clean and start fresh with exciting, optimistic football in BC, mission accomplished so far.
Yeah, and it was just fun because, what was the things? I mean, go back to attendance. Teams like Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Edmonton to a degree, and even Calgary at one point, even Montreal. We were like, hey, we need the big markets to have butts in the seats for this league to be successful. Yeah, we look at Toronto. I mean, that's something for a different podcast, and we need BC to be successful. Fill up those seats. Yeah, and I still don't think anybody that we're talking about it enough because hey, that's all that we were doing. BC fans, watch this product, and they did, and we're not appreciating it. We're not talking about it enough, and I think that this needs to be a BC Line fan appreciation podcast for at least this week, because you were asked to do something, you were given an incentive to go there. One Republic, and by the way, if I have to see one more tweet about a fan, I don't like their music. Listen, okay, you're not going to satisfy 35,000 people at the same time who were there for football with the same type of music, right? That's just not going to happen. So stop it with that. Like, it's just like the Grey Cup. Like, this is a concert, and they only sang 2 or 3 songs, and I actually knew all of them, thanks to my kids. But it's like you said, I don't know if this is a one of, but this is a good start, and they could drop down to 20,000 people the next time that they come around. And honestly, it would not matter to me. I honestly think that this is just this brings a gleam to my eye. Next on the docket is, of course, we talked about this on the live recap. Everybody's talking about the Simoni Lawrence hit on Cody Fajardo. Again, because we just talked about it on the live recap, I don't want to kind of dive too much into it. So maybe we just take another route to this and maybe talk about what can we do to even get rid of this kind of hit in the CFL, because it seems to be the same old song and dance for a guy who's done it again. And by the way, if we're going to be talking about suspensions, I think they're going to have to throw the book at him this time around, because one of the things that they talked about when he hit Zach Collaros when he was a member of the Riders back in 2019, a lot of people said, well, you can't suspend him. There's no history. And I think this is one of those things where, well, okay, there's been history. Just because he hasn't been supplementally disciplined does not take away history. There's just no legal history for us to go off of. So now you have that hit. Now you have this hit. So assuming that they do suspend him, maybe 2 or 3 games again. But I guess we'll take this another route. What does the CFL need to do to take this kind of to keep our quarterbacks healthy for a whole 18 games? What do we have to do to take these kind of hits out of the game?
It's tough because I don't know if it's a CFL league issue. I think from what I don't want to go through the whole diatribe that I did on the live recap, but it's this whole mentality of, yes, you do need a double standard for the quarterbacks. He's not just another football player out there. He is the most important player to every team. He is how you are going to win and lose. I can go out and I can find more receivers. I cannot find a quarterback that's going to guide me to a 15-3 season on a regular basis. You absolutely have a double standard. It is not a debate on, well, he's just another football. There's hitting in football. If you can't take it, don't play. That is garbage. And this is the problem. You talk about what do we need to do? We need to get this mentality of there's a play that's questionable. So let's question the quarterback. He ran, so he's fair game. Oh, that's good. He ran. He's fair game. Let's let Lawrence off the hook. Let's let the bad play off the hook by saying that. Now let's trivialize him down to just another football player. Let's take out the name. Let's take out the history. Let's take out positions. Oh yeah, that's good. Now we don't have to worry about, the victim anymore. Now we can dumb it down to it's just generic football now. Now it's not a problem. Now we've made sure the quarterback isn't important. We've made sure that player safety isn't important because it's just hitting. So yeah, no, that's all. And we need to get this out of it. And it was what I saw when the podcast account tweeted out the video of whether it was clean or dirty. Obviously, there's going to be Saskatchewan fans that are going to go dirty straight out of the gate, just out of loyalty to their team. And there's Tiger Cats that are going to say clean straight out of blind loyalty to their club. It's everyone else in that football culture outside of it that is now going to do everything it can to trivialize every aspect of that play. So it's no longer about player safety. It's no longer about protecting a player that is more valuable than other players. Is his safety more important? Yes, I think I know you're going to want to say, oh, so other people can get hit. No, don't be stupid. I'm not saying that. That's another way to trivialize stuff. I am not saying everyone else is allowed to get injured and cheap shot, but you do have to have a double standard for the quarterback. And if you want hits like this to come out of the game, when they happen, don't instantly go and defend football culture or the game or how it's played or the toughness of the player getting hit. It was a bad hit for the way we praise these guys for being able to play at the speed they do and make split-second decisions. And then when something stupid happens and we need to defend the game, suddenly it moves too fast for any human to come up with that decision. Suddenly, instead of being able to read defenses in a blink of an eye, to be able to read coverages, to be able to be so fine-tuned at your sport that DBs can actually tell where the quarterbacks are going, because for that flint of a second, he saw the quarterback looking back and he was able to act. But now, because the quarterback got hit from behind, oh no, like he was falling, the guy was on him, there was another defender. He can't react that. The game is too fast. There's no way he could stop. He was already lunging his body towards the quarterback. Oh no, he can't stop, and you can't make those decisions that quickly. We got to get, if you want to start protecting players, get rid of that stuff and just call it what it is, a stupid hit that didn't and shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting because, you know, we mentioned on the live broadcast, I'm just waiting for the CFLPA to get involved in the inevitable supplement. Maybe you know what, to be honest with you, I mean, there's some arguments that kind of convinced me sway because, you know, obviously being neutral, you made the point. There's going to be Saskatchewan Rough Rider fans that are going to be like, they've got the pitchforks ready. And Hamilton Tiger Cat fans, they've got their pitchforks ready in the event that Simoni Lawrence gets fined or suspended. Now you got neutral people are like, this is Simoni being Simoni. And then, of course, then you've got other neutral be like, this is football. Are we really having this conversation if it wasn't Simoni? And to be honest, who knows? We may not even be talking about this if it's Simoni Lawrence, or if it's someone else that's making that hit. You know, we're probably dropping it, and it's not that big of a deal. But because it's Simoni Lawrence, because it's a Rider quarterback, we're going detailed into this one.
You know what? Here's the other thing I'll say. Here's something I'll throw in there too, just because you asked me what the league has to do to it, and I do actually have an answer for that one too. The league, after something like that, and someone says, "Listen, we need a decision." If the league wants to do something to stop it, this is my solution to that too. The league goes up to the CFLPA and says, that's your problem. Your guy hit another one of your guys. Those aren't my guys. I'm the league. I represent the owners. We look at, that's who I look after. I'm the commissioner of those owners. You're a CFL. You're the Players Association. We have to sign a contract with you guys to even play here. Those aren't my guys. I can't tell them what to do. So you know what? Your guy hit another one of your guys. You deal with it. And then if you're going to suspend it, we'll uphold it. If you're not going to suspend them, we won't bother then. And that's where it'll end. Your guy hit your guy. You come up with a decision. You deal with it. And if you're suspending him, then I'll go to my owner and say, listen, the PA wants to suspend one of your guys. Okay, we will honor that suspension. And then see what happens when it's not all of the PA all fighting the owners. Suddenly, it's the PA having their responsibility dropped right on their laps. And then see what happens. And
guaranteed that the next collective bargaining agreement, this is going to be the whole thing all over again. CFLPA fighting within. Last one, last hot take. Quarterback controversies. We love quarterback controversies. And I think every team that was obviously that lost, I don't want to throw Ottawa in there because they moved the ball pretty decent with Jeremiah Mazzoli. So I don't want to throw that in there. Hamilton, Dane Evans. In fact, I think during this recording, he got sacked 3 more times during this recording. Matthew Schultz possibly taking over. In Edmonton, you've got Nick Arbuckle, you know, whatever's going on with them, Trey Ford. And, you know, that was just, I think Arbuckle got pulled in a little bit too easily in that game. But when we talk quarterback controversies, we're usually talking about because, you know, one player, you know, was better than the other. Not so much in these cases. I mean, you know, but there was back-to-back games where the backup quarterback came in and engineered game-winning drives. In Calgary, Jake Mayer did it. And one could argue that Jake Mayer at this time is better than Bo Levi Mitchell. We're not taking away. That's not the argument, but
that's a week 5 hot take.
Yeah, that's a week 5
hot take. We'll discuss that one in week 5.
But also on Friday, Drew Brown did the same thing, although it was one drive, but he came in cold, 3 for 3, 51 yards, and led to a game-winning field goal against the Ottawa Redblacks. I know this is week 1, and you mentioned it, it's week 5, but it's fun to talk about these kind of issues because now we're starting to maybe a glimmer of hope, because we always talked about, okay, when was the next group, the crop of great quarterbacks, right? I remember when you first came on the podcast, you know, I think we were just, you know, Ricky Ray was on the downside, but he was still good. Anthony Kilvio was maybe still around. But But there was this new crop of quarterbacks at that time: Michael Riley, Bo Levi Mitchell, and Drew Willie. And I think even Zach Collaros was around that. Collaros actually just, he went a different route. Michael Riley retired. Drew Willie hasn't been seen. And Bo Levi Mitchell.
The Manziel fellow. That Manziel fellow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to count him.
Okay.
But Bo Levi Mitchell, who is clearly on the downward, I mean, his career's gone south. It might be extended depending on how, Calgary handles things. A, is this a good quarterback controversy to have? And B, are we witnessing the next group of potential, I don't want to say elite, but great quarterbacks in the league in Jake Maier and possibly Drew Brown?
It is fun to consider because we were excited back then, and you always like to know you're bringing in new quarterbacks opposed to the 1990s sharing quarterbacks, swapping out quarterbacks, kind of like high school dating. This week, these two are dating. Next year, those two are dating, and everyone just dates everybody. The quarterback goes to all of the teams. Like, we make fun of Kevin Glenn and all the teams he went to, but seriously, that was 90s CFL football, like just swapping quarterbacks. Like, I don't want to get
Damon Allen was doing it before it was cool.
I know, like, seriously, like, I don't want to get all weird or anything, but it's like the 90s was like swingers club for CFL quarterback. Everyone puts their quarterbacks in a bowl and, let's do partner up. And I mean, so you always want to see that new quarterbacks are coming in and making a name for themselves. Like, Vernon Adams has been here a few years now, and he actually got kicked around a couple times before he seemed to find his groove in Montreal. But yeah, I want to see new guys. I still want to keep guys like Homer McLeod-Thompson still doing good in Toronto. And who knows if Pipkin's going to make his name for himself eventually. And Rourke has us all talking right now, whether or not he's the future. He's definitely on everybody's minds right now and everyone's tongues as we talk about the BC Lions and a good Canadian quarterback. So I hope it all pans out. It's not one of those things where every single one of them is going to work out. It never does. But it seems to be a nice kind of building ground right now. So we'll see what kind of momentum it gets.
It's a fun discussion to have, I tell you. Moving on, again, because we're just going through the CFL, or I guess our itinerary, and sometimes I always get mixed up here because we were supposed to have our mystery deck, and Tony let us down. I'm joking.
Big fail.
We will go on with our week 2 preview. This portion of the podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the gentlemen over at manscaped.ca. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Rouge at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code Rouge. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. The Toronto Argonauts start week number 2, their home opener, and they actually start off without actually playing a game. They start off week 2 in first place by virtue of not playing, because the nobody in the East could win against the West. And we're starting that conversation again. Tony, where do you see this one going? Toronto Argonauts hosting the William Stanback-less Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah, that was a big hit to the Alouettes. I think they're going to need something to recover from that one. I felt they had such a good showing against the Calgary Stampeders. And I mean, maybe there's nothing more than a 500 football club. Consistency was such a problem with them in the last 2 years, and they can't seem to get over that hump. They've got some great guys on defense that can make plays, turn it over. Obviously, Stanback leaving is not going to help their case any for getting more consistent. I just have just a big football crush on Vernon Adams. I'd love to see him have an MOP season because he is such a great character for the Canadian Football League. Very passionate. You can see it in the way he plays. If you follow him on Twitter, he's very passionate there as well. I don't know if they're ready. I don't know if they're ready to start winning 3 and 4 football games in a row. We're probably not back to the early 2000 Montreal Alouettes quite yet. And I really did enjoy what I saw from them last week against Calgary. But it is difficult as well to go all in them yet in week 2. We haven't seen Homer McLeod yet. Who knows what they've got waiting for them? They've got a lot of big names. They've got a lot of big additions. It's what the Argonauts do. They bring in the biggest names they can find and hope that will be enough to get the W. Andrew obviously going to make an impact on this team. I don't think you can say he's not. He may not win a rushing title. He's going to make an impact in the game. That's what Andrew Harris does. That's the kind of football player he is. And like I said, Homer McLeod Thompson, the Bumblebee. That's Homer, the Bumblebee McLeod Thompson. He shouldn't be able to fly with his little wings on that body, but he does. And they're at home, and he's got some weapons, and Harris is going to take pressure off him. I can't put all my money on the Alouettes to win back-to-back weeks, but in this case, I will. I'm going to pray that my faith in this Alouettes team to rise above and be the team in the East. I'm going to take them really close, 21-20 over the Argonauts, like 80% confident on this one, because again, I haven't seen the Argonauts yet. I don't know what to expect from them. I've seen the Alouettes, and I've seen enough to roll the dice on them. Not all in, but enough for my long shot, my dark horse for this week as well. And again, 1 point win over the Argos.
Yeah. Jashron Entree comes in to take over for William Stanback. Not bad, 7 carries for 98 yards. That's a nice 14 yard per carry. Going up against Andrew Harris, who is expected to get the bulk of the workload in that Toronto offense, I would imagine. But the one thing that we would imagine is that this is their week 1, and we always expect a team, regardless if you're playing at home or away, that when you have that first week bye, it always puts you off because now you're playing from behind almost, because you get the team that's played the week before. They have, I'm not going to say that they don't have film on it, because obviously Toronto kept a good chunk of their team together and added a few more. I think that would be the most of the only advantage that Toronto would have at this point. But Montreal is playing, now they've got Antwi, a full half of work. They've got a whole, they're going to give them a whole week worth of practice to go into Toronto and hopefully come out with the W. But I like what you said, Vernon Adams. You got to love his commitment to want to win. Sometimes it does come out, 56.5% completion percentage last week, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Sometimes he just doesn't know how, where to put the ball properly against good defenses. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does it to a Toronto team that's coming off a bye. And usually what's going to be interesting is what is going to prevail. Is Toronto's film work on Montreal going to prevail over Montreal actually have played a game? But I think in this game, assuming that there's no injuries on Montreal's half, they're bringing in Shane Simpson, who was with the Bombers in the training camp, who was late cut. I'm with you. I think Montreal is going to come out with a win. I have them marked off with the W already. Obviously, William Stanback does kind of maybe change my perception, but I do think Montreal is going to come out with this one. My final score is going to be 25-18. Next game is on a Friday. The rematch of a very good game Yeah, I mean, it was a low-scoring game, but it's a very good game to say the least. The Ottawa Redblacks, their home opener against the defending, reigning back-to-back Grey Cup champions, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. My gut, because I don't like back-to-backs, because it very rarely does the team who wins the first wins the next. And my gut says Ottawa's going to win this one. I don't know. I think, there seems to be some kind of regression sometimes when you have this, come out of the gate, especially with a team like Ottawa who had that roster turnover. They surprised a lot of people, and they're good. Don't get me wrong. They were good. But I'm kind of half expecting a regression from them. Not too much. And my head just says Winnipeg in a close game. I'm going to say Winnipeg wins this one 25. I'm going to say 25-23, possibly long, a last-minute field goal. Tony, where do you go with this one?
And I think that's where even I want to get drawn to, right? You saw Ottawa with a fairly impressive showing. Jeremiah Mazzoli rubbing off on the Ottawa Redblacks, but it's still a franchise that needs to learn how to win. They can't do it instantly, and have a couple of years of bad football under their belts that they need to get out of their system. I have a big thing about week one is where you take anything can happen. And I think we saw that. Anything happened between Ottawa and Winnipeg, and we got a closer game than we anticipated. And excitement makes you want to instinctively said, Ottawa might be for real. Winnipeg might not be the same team we thought they were. Like a lot of knee-jerk reactions kind of come to the surface right away. This is one of those things where now I see Winnipeg and Ottawa both settling in a little closer to where we expect them to be. I have a bigger regression for Ottawa because I think that's where Ottawa is at. The week one nerves are over. Winnipeg got a game out of their system. They're going to go on the road now, and they're not going to have that media attention that they're getting right now in Winnipeg, where expectations are through the roof. I don't care what anyone says. It's BS if you tell me Winnipeg is not putting themselves in a 3P position right now. You have to. They look good enough, and you're justified in doing it. So I see this game separating a little bit more. They're not the first game. They're not kicking off the entire schedule. And I see a more competent Ottawa or Winnipeg Blue Bombers team showing up in week number 2. I have a bit more distance now at 30-17. The Bombers take this one over the Red Blacks, who are still learning to win again.
Jackson Jeffcoat may be back for this game. He was a late scratch. I shouldn't say a late scratch, but didn't practice as much last week. Should be back for this opening week matchup. Calgary Stampeders in another doubleheader, and I got to love these doubleheaders to end off a week. The Calgary Stampeders are in Hamilton for their home opener to face the Tiger Cats. Where do you see this one going?
I'd never like Calgary and Hamilton. I don't care who the quarterbacks are. I don't care what kind of season the Stampeders having or what kind of season the Tiger Cats are having. Calgary just does not play football in Hamilton. I don't know what it is, and it's one of those ridiculous things that these aren't the same players from 2005, but when you watch it, why do they still look like the same games, the same players, and the same outcomes as 2005? I don't feel like Calgary's going to go in and win this football game. I think they're the better football team. It's a bit of a contradiction after me talking about the Hamilton Tiger Cats regressing all season long, but I think a part of that is going to be glimmers of hope here and there in an overall unsuccessful football season. Maybe I've just been burnt by this Calgary Stampeders. Maybe this is more fandom talking than rational thinking. I think Calgary is the better team to go in there, take care of business. Obviously, I also think the Bo Levi Mitchell Mayer storyline is going to increase in 2022 stronger than it's ever been. And I don't believe there's a more polarizing quarterback in the last couple of years than Bo Levi Mitchell. You hate him or you love him. There's very few people are like, yeah, he's okay, I guess. He's a good quarterback. You don't hear a lot of people do that. He's a good quarterback. I like him, but I don't hate him either. You loathe Bo Levi Mitchell, or you're loyal to Bo Levi Mitchell to the end. And I think the Bo Levi Mitchell story is going to be bigger and bigger all year. I think I might get a lot of hate from the Calgary Stampede or faithful on this one. It's possible. I can see the turning of the page in Calgary in 2022 away from Bo Levi Mitchell. I even see it to the point where I'm not going to be surprised if Bo Levi Mitchell isn't wearing a Calgary Stampeders jersey at the end of the year. But that could be something for later on. Maybe that's my way too early stuff. But I'm going to say 27-13, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are going to win this one. Not because I'm a hypocrite, not because I think the Tiger Cats are better than I've been saying for the last 3 weeks. This is one of those games that's got Calgary Stampeder throw up all over it. They're gonna puke this game up and lose it despite not being the worst team.
Mm-hmm. I kind of echo your sentiments completely. I marked down Hamilton to win when it went through the schedule this game. I really having a tough time after seeing what they did yesterday in Saskatchewan. Like, it is tough. Like, Saskatchewan is good, but Hamilton made them look all world. Like, I'm not, and I don't want to take anything away from what Saskatchewan did, because Saskatchewan forced a lot of their turnovers, and they had their way with them. But Hamilton didn't do them any favors. They didn't do themselves any favors, and it's going to be, there's injuries on the offensive line. I think there's a lack of confidence in that Hamilton locker room for the first time. You got Simoni Lawrence, who's was in the spotlight for the wrong reason. Who knows if he's going to be playing? He may end up being suspended. The Hamilton Tiger Cats in the last couple of years, one of the things you could say is, no matter what would happen, is that they had the confidence that they were like, okay, all right, so we sucked this game, we lost this game, okay, we're going to come out and beat the crap out of the next team. I don't, it's a home opener, so there's a different atmosphere that you have. I look at that. I look at the body language on the sidelines from what I saw on TV. I didn't see confidence in Hamilton whatsoever. And because I haven't really seen, I'm going to go back on my words from what I said last week, because I know, this is going to come out almost looking like hypocritical from what I'm going to say, because I don't expect Hamilton to be what I predicted the record to be, but I just haven't seen enough of them to say, no, they're not going to be a good team, because it's week one. But I was confident when I was going through the schedule, not as confident as I was a couple of weeks ago. I think Hamilton's still going to win this game, 23-20 over the Calgary Stampeders. That would be my prediction for that game. Last game of the week, the Edmonton Elks, their home opener against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Chris Jones coaching against his former team, a team that he brought to, I guess, out of embarrassment, and now he's brought embarrassment to the Edmonton Elks. And again, week one, there's some issues there that could be paved out. But I wrote on Twitter, I don't know if you saw the tweet, and I think I did it from my personal account. If you want a point of reference to compare this Chris Jones team in Edmonton to what he came into, it's almost very similar. Just completely gutting what was there and bringing in your guys to fit your mold. That Saskatchewan Roughriders, I believe, started the season in 2016 1-4, and it included an ass whipping. I think it was like 44-3 at the hands of the Montreal Alouettes. Edmonton got theirs handed to them quite early. I like where Edmonton's going as a franchise. on the field, I just don't imagine that it's going to be anywhere soon. It's nowhere near to the 8-10 or 10-8 that I had them predicted early in the offseason. So I'm going to go back on the 8-10 prediction because I just don't see it. This is one I'm confident to say, Dalts, you were wrong on an 8-10. Very well could be anywhere from 6-12 to 3-15. I have Saskatchewan going into Edmonton, and at this rate, probably two-way tie based on our predictions in the Western Division with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Saskatchewan wins this one. I'll say 32-20, Tony.
Yeah, I picked a team to go 1-8, 1-17, and I think I may have picked the wrong team after watching the Edmonton Elks against the BC Lions. Joking aside, it's way too early to completely pack it in and call that a season for the Edmonton Elks. That was just, boy, that was a horrible football game. Like that was just, they were just, that's just not good football. But nothing that happened last week, even if Edmonton had beaten BC 59, what was it, 15?
Yeah,
nothing,
59-15.
Even if the Elks had been on the good side of that, nothing would have influenced me to take them over the Saskatchewan Roughriders this weekend. And by no means did Saskatchewan convince me that they were the team to beat after that game. Like I don't come out of that Tiger Cats game thinking, boy, those Rough Riders, they're pretty scary, because I'm not thinking that either. But in head-to-head with Edmonton, regardless of what would have happened to the Elks last week, I would still take Saskatchewan Rough Riders in this game. The only thing it's going to influence is the score I would have predicted. And after the events of the weekend and that horrific car crash of a game that was the Edmonton Elks, I'm gonna make the span here a little bit bigger. I'm gonna give this one to the Riders 35-10.
Oh wow! So are we on the same track? We both predicted Montreal, Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And we both have Hamilton, but we're not confident on Hamilton. No. And we're
just more like Calgary losing the game than Hamilton winning it for me.
Yeah. Okay. No. I think that's fair. Before we wrap up our final thoughts, do you have a trade proposal? Does Toronto go out and trade for Bo Levi Mitchell once they realize that Mr. Bumblebee McLeod Thompson is not there, and that Chad Kelly is not the answer behind the scenes?
It would be
eventually. They would need one.
Sorry, we've been looking at each other and we keep.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. It's a tough one.
No, I don't know how it would unfold. Let's, if we're doing way too early into this, hypothetically, who's going to come knocking for Bo Levi Mitchell? And it could be anyone's guess. Nathan Rourke, if he keeps rolling in BC, they're not going to have the need for him. That I think it was something I even said in the offseason too. Like once Michael Riley retired, it's like, oh, here we go. Bo Levi Mitchell's going to go to the BC Lions. But I don't know. That could still go off the rails there. And I mean, in a league as small as the Canadian Football League, you can't be picky and choosy on who you want to make trades to. What if the Edmonton Elks come knocking on the door for Bo Levi Mitchell? Does Calgary trade with their provincial rival? You don't have a lot of dance partners in this, and that's a big contract to pick up. So if Edmonton finally says, you know what, we've got room for that money, let's go for it. And if they've got some pieces that Calgary's looking at, boy, does that make a hell of a storyline to wrap up a post-Labor Day trade that sees Bo Levi Mitchell go into Calgary on Labor Day wearing Edmonton Elks horns or antlers. Either way, I'm just starting rumors now and causing trouble, so I should probably pump the brakes.
Before we go in with finalizing today's podcast, because it was week one, the Simoni Lawrence hit on Cody Fajardo, it was the hit itself wasn't semblance, but I did get a vibe of 2019 all over again. What would happen if Cody Fajardo wasn't pulled he did get a concussion and he was on the 6-game IR. Mason Fine comes in, throws the lights out, plays his ass off, gets Saskatchewan to like a 9-1 record, and they do the same thing that they did with Collaros, trade Fajardo to an Eastern team who then turns around and trades him to Edmonton or even Calgary wouldn't make that trade, but even Edmonton. Like, you have the possibility of that trade biting Saskatchewan back in their rear end. That, like, I'm almost kind of want it to happen, but not happen, because obviously that's kind of hypothetical because Fajardo is healthy, no concussion, at least from what I can tell. But it is it's kind of fun to play hypothetical, but I don't mean that as a joke to come up. That'll wrap it up for episode 438. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the ticker at the bottom. We are affiliated with betus.com. You hit the link, copy and paste it if you can. Use the promo code JOIN125. They will match your first deposit 125% and get your winnings. Play the slots, casino, live gambling, put money on what we've given you an idea of how games would finish. Use that to your advantage. We may or we may not be. I
was 3-1 last week. I was 3-1 last week. How did you do?
Not. Wait. Well, how did I do? I know
obviously I got the BC
Hamilton.
Lions wrong. I obviously got BC Lions wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, we both did. I think I finished 2 for 2. 2 for 2. It's not 4 for 4, but it's not 4 for 4. But
there's no Mr. Perfect intro for anyone this week.
Not yet, but we might be both perfect if we because we both have similar picks. Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No. Yep. My final thought is stop rewarding bad behavior in sports. Get rid of he's garbage. He's a cheap shot artist. He's going to injure someone. He's going to end someone's career. But I'd take him on my team. That's my final thought. Simoni Lawrence, get that out of your sports vocabulary. Everyone, stop telling league's garbage players that even though they're going to end someone's career, you'd still take them on your team. Get rid of that, please.
Yeah, and as much as right as you may be, it's just kind of like, okay, well, okay, great. We'd like him on our team, so we'd injure other players. It's essentially what you're saying. Yeah. That'll do it for episode 438. Proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. By the way, just keeping time with the CFPN Fantasy League. 1-0. I've got a one-on-one matchup with Adam Stewart of the Canadian Football Countdown Show. Hopefully, I can continue that trend of giving the Rouge Radio podcast another W. That'll do it for episode 438. Again, this is powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. My name is Robert Dalton. That's Tony Allen. And for Tony, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.